Y'all, scammers suck. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. And there are some scams happening at the cruise port and on the ship that you need to be aware of. Hi, y'all. I'm Tiffany with TP's Travels, and unfortunately, there are some scams that I want to make sure that you're aware of when you're cruising. These are not only happening at the port and on the cruise ship, but even before you get on the cruise ship as well. Scammers are playing to your emotions. I've been scammed before, not on a cruise ship, but I'll give you that story a little later if you want to hear it. But scammers are all over the place, and this is something that you need to be aware of. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, some things that you can expect before even getting on the cruise ship are impersonators. So there have been reports of people impersonating CEOs, big YouTubers, even cruise line guest services. And sometimes like the YouTubers or the CEOs, people will go on their channel or their website, and then that supposedly YouTuber will say, "Thank you so much for joining. You've won a gift. Send me money." Yeah, that's a red flag right there. No, don't do that. And then there also has been a report of somebody who was going to be late to the cruise ship on embarkation day. And they decided that they would call the cruise line to let them know that they're going to be late. They didn't know what the number was, so they went ahead and Googled it. And of course, when you Google it, a lot of times that just leaves you open for scammers. And a scam person answered the phone pretending to be the guest service of that particular cruise line. And apparently this has happened quite often with that particular cruise line. And so that is something to be aware of. Never Google the number, always find the number on the website itself and call directly to that number. Plus, also, if you're going to be late on embarkation day, if your arrival time is like 11:30, and they're going to close the gangway at 3:30, you don't have to call them. If you're going to make it there at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they don't care if you're going to be late. As long as you get there by 3:30 before they close the gangway, you're fine. Plus, that scammer was also telling that person that they would have to pay extra to change their arrival time to a later time. No, you do not have to pay extra. You're not going to have to pay extra. Plus, you should also have a credit card on file. So that would also eliminate any of that as well. So just be aware of people trying to impersonate other people saying that they're YouTubers, CEOs, or even guest services. Now, something else that is happening before you get on the cruise, and that is joining the cruise ship's Facebook group. Now, I do recommend joining the cruise ship's Facebook group. That is very helpful. If you're not familiar with that, just go online to Facebook and look and search your cruise ship and your sailing date, and I guarantee you, you're going to find a Facebook group that it has been created for that particular sailing date. They'll usually have a question when you try to join, and it'll just say, "Are you going to be on this sailing?" So these are great groups to be a part of. But unfortunately, you need to be careful of some scammers who are creating these groups. And when they're doing it, they are also trying to sell you different products. Now, there are a lot of honest people who do this. And unfortunately, these scammers are ruining it for the honest people. Now, what's happening is they will create some kind of a souvenir of that cruise line, maybe a mug or a t-shirt, and it'll be specific to that cruise ship and you're sailing, and they'll ask you to purchase it, and they'll bring them on board, and they're like, "Well, we don't want to bring 400 of them on, so pre-order them so we know how many we need to bring on, and we'll disperse them out when we get on the ship." Makes sense, but those are typically scams, and people never get their items that they purchase. And in most cases, those people aren't even on that cruise sailing. So be careful of that and paying for anything ahead of time. Another one that is also a scam on Facebook are called slot pool scams. Now, what is a slot pool? I've joined a slot pool before. It was not a scam. But what it is so many people, and you all pull your money together, and you're going to put $1,000 on one slot machine. Your odds of winning are going to go up, and everybody is playing on that one slot machine. And when whatever money comes out, you divvy it up, and that's pretty much a slot pool. It's a lot of fun. I won $100, only paid $25 for a ticket. But when I did it, I handed the money to the guy. He was very honest. He let everybody know what he was doing with the money. Everybody got a chance to go up and play the slot machine themselves. We were on like a Wheel of Fortune machine. That's what you can expect in a Facebook slot pool group. What the scammers are doing is they're asking for money up front so they can go ahead and get everything arranged, and then they'll meet you in the casino. Yeah, they never meet you in the casino, and chances are they're probably not even on that cruise. And another thing that is happening on Facebook groups, and it's really sad, are people who are claiming that they have a sick child or their child has cancer, and if they don't sell so many of these items, they won't be able to go on the cruise. And they're just trying to make a happy time for their child while they're sick. Yeah, they're not going on the cruise, and a lot of times they don't even have a child. So be aware of these Facebook scams that are happening currently right now, actually, because I just heard of another one that happened a week ago. Now, what are some scams that you should be aware of when you're headed to the cruise port? Well, one is a credit card scam. There have been reports that when you're in another country, the conversion of the dollars are not going over when they're getting charged on their credit card. So a person is getting charged $200, $300, and they're told, oh, well, by the time you see your bank account, it will convert to US dollars of $30 or $50, whatever it is you're expecting, and that's not the case. So be careful and make sure that whatever you are being charged is in US dollars. Also, something else to be aware of, and this is not a scam, but just something to be aware of. If you're in another country and you're going to an ATM, for one, try to use an ATM that you're familiar with, but also look at the currency, if there is a currency conversion, if you are pulling out US dollars or not. So that is definitely something to look at. My husband went to an ATM in Cabo, thought he was pulling out their currency, and no, he pulled out $200 in US dollars. So that is just something to be aware of. We put it right back on our account. Wasn't an issue, but just make sure that what it is you're pulling out, if it's US dollars or not, when you are pulling out money in an ATM. Now, tip to avoid ATM fees. We do this several times when we're on a cruise ship, and this will help you to not have to pay ATM fees at all. So what you can do is you would go over to the casino, take your room key, put it in the slot machine, charge your room, and when you charge your room, you would charge it like $30, $50, however much you're wanting to pull out of the ATM. Now it's going to load it up on the slot machine for you. You just cash out. Don't play it, just cash out. Now some cruise ships will have, they'll cash out a ticket. Some it'll go straight on your card. So either way, you can take that over to the cash machine, withdraw that money that you won. Basically, that is the same way as using an ATM without any fees. Now it's going to go on your room charges, but now you've got that money that you would have pulled out at an ATM without having to pay any ATM fees. Now there is a limit to how much you can charge at the casino per day and per sailing. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's like $1,000. I've never had to pull out that much money. I usually only pull out around $50 at a time. But just know that if you want to pull out a lot of money, there is a limit. And then also, I do only recommend taking a little bit of money when you go to the cruise port, because that leads me to my next scam of pickpocketers. And that is a big scam at some of the cruise ports. There are different types of pickpocket scams where they'll just grab your bag. There's also a very popular one where they will pretend to spill something on you and they apologetically wipe you off, and then they steal whatever you have on you. I recommend having like a crossbody bag if you are carrying anything at the port. I don't personally carry anything. Only thing I need when I go to the port is my ID and my room key. That's the only things that I take with me, and I just put it in my husband's wallet. And my phone always stays in my hand. So me personally, I don't carry anything, so that leads less chances for a pickpocketer. Now, if you're going on an excursion, this isn't always a scam, but something to highly be aware of, and that is if you have booked a private excursion, always read the fine print and make sure that if you miss that port day, because there's rough seas or maybe the itinerary changed, make sure if that port day was missed and you weren't able to go and do that excursion, that there is a cancellation fee. I have heard so many people who have booked a excursion through a private excursion and they refuse to give any kind of money back. So definitely make sure that there is a refund policy just in case you miss that port. Now, when walking around at the port, you want to be careful of some of the people who are walking around wanting photos. There are some that can be a little pushy. They might try to photobomb you. I've never really had this happen, but now if you do, it is customary if you do get a photo with them or if you start filming them or anything like that, to give them a tip. Now, sometimes I have heard people say that they can be really pushy and they'll tell you, oh, they want a $30 tip or a $25 tip when you might have only wanted to give them a couple bucks or $5 or something. So definitely be careful of people who are pushy with wanting photos. Now, if you just want a photo and you want to go up to them, then yeah, definitely you can check with them first how much they were wanting, just so you can kind of avoid any of that confusion afterwards. Now, along those lines, pretty much every port I've ever been to, especially in Mexico, you'll come across a lot of vendors who are trying to show you different things, bracelets, hats, seashells, and I was kind of gotten on this one, and they are just showing them to you, hoping that you will take the item, they'll put the hat on your head, and in most cases, as soon as you put that hat on your head or you start looking at the bracelet, they will want you to pay for it. Sometimes they will get really pushy, and it's hard to kind of back out of that situation. Now, I wasn't really scammed. I probably could have put the seashell down, but they just kept going back and forth. I was just looking at the seashell. I didn't really want it, but I felt compelled to buy a $15 conch shell when I was in Cozumel. So yeah, from now on, if I don't really want to purchase any of those items, I just say thank you and just keep on walking. And I've never had any issues. So definitely just keep that in mind. If you are holding any of their items or starting to take a look at any of their items that they hand you, sometimes they are going to expect you to go ahead and pay for it. Damaged scooters and golf carts is something else that you want to be aware of. If you are renting maybe a Segway, a scooter, a golf cart, anything like that, and you want to make sure that it's not damaged before you take it out. That means if it's dented anywhere, scuffed anywhere, just look over it, double check, and if you notice anything, let the person that you're renting it from know that you are aware of it. Maybe even take a picture of it, because there have been so many reports of people coming back with a dented scooter or a dented golf cart that was fine. They knew it was there before, they rented it, but they're blaming it on them. And sometimes they go and get the authorities involved, and now you're in another country and you just don't want to deal with that. And they're having to pay the fees that they're telling them that they need to pay because they supposedly damaged the golf cart. So definitely make sure that you are looking over any of those to make sure that you're not going to be held liable for, a scooter that's damaged prior to you renting it. Now, another popular scam at cruise ports is the taxi scam. You want to make sure that you don't ever prepay for the taxi. That is a big scam right there. And so many times people will pay for the taxi. They'll book the taxi before they even get off the cruise ship, and they pay for it ahead of time, and the taxi driver is not there when they get off the cruise port. And it's usually not hard to find a taxi anyway, especially if you go over to where the shore excursion buses are being picked up. There's usually taxis over there that you can find without any issue. Now, I do recommend making sure they are who they say they are. And then before you get in the taxi, make sure that you understand the price of how much it is. Make sure it's for the whole ride and not per person. They're not telling you, yeah, it's $25, but then when you get out, oh, well, I meant it was $25 per person. It's a $50 ride. Yeah, that's happened several times, and it did happen to someone that I talked to not too long ago in Nassau. So definitely make sure that you are aware of how much the taxi ride is going to cost before you even get in. Speaking of Nassau, I wasn't scammed there, but I had several people asking me if I wanted to get in a taxi when we were headed over to Atlantis. We did take a water shuttle over to Atlantis, and then we had just a short walk to walk around over there to the park. And it was like 10 minutes. But we were approached by several different taxi drivers, and they were saying, oh, it's a 35, 40-minute walk. Yeah, no, it's not. And they were trying to get us to get a taxi. And I'm like, I can walk 10 minutes. I think it maybe have taken me 8 minutes. Look at your phone, pull up the directions on your phone, and that way you know if it's actually a 30, 40-minute walk away. And that way you know if they're telling you the truth. And also they kept telling me different prices for their taxi. One was saying $30, one was saying $25, one was saying $45. They all tell you something different, and then they'll all tell you it's so far away, you want to make sure you take a taxi because it's too long of a walk, and a lot of times it's not. We usually walk a lot of places in the port. So that is my tip. Make sure that you have the directions pulled up on your phone, your walking directions, so you know exactly how long it's going to take you to get there. So you know if they're telling you the truth or not when they're telling you how long it's going to take you. Now, I have one big thing that you want to make sure that you don't do when you're at the cruise port. But first, if you wanted to hear my real quick story of how I was scammed a few years ago. And like I said, it was not on a cruise. They played to my emotions. I was going through a lot of different things at that point in time, and I wanted a puppy. And yeah, I know you probably all know where this is going right now. I paid for a puppy online with some gift cards. Wanted a little teddy bear Maltipoo, and y'all, that was a fake puppy. I did not get my dog. So I was pretty sad at that point, but like I said in the beginning, they play on your emotions. And you know, with the sick child, help us out so we can go on the cruise. Always be careful of that. And obviously that was a red flag that I just bought into with giving them gift cards online. That's just something I just want to put that out there. Just be careful. And if you've ever been scammed by anything, cruise or not a cruise, leave a comment. Let us all know so we can all be aware of some of these scams that are out there. Now, what is the number one thing you don't want to do when you're at the cruise port? And that is not being on ship time. Because a lot of times when you go over into the cruise port, your phone will automatically switch over to whatever island time that you are on. Make sure that you have it on ship time. Because if you're not, and so often, and I have heard people say, well, I thought it was 4 o'clock and it's back on board at 5 o'clock. Well, it's 5 o'clock now. That's why the ship is doing their horns, because you are late. So yeah, make sure you stay on ship time, because standing on the dock and waving bye to the ship is not how you want to disembark your cruise. If you want to see how you can have a smooth disembarkation day, be sure to check out this video here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.